Traveling this weekend and worried about the forecast? That's exactly why I created this YouTube channel. If I haven't met you yet, my name is James Van Fleet. I'm a 32-year meteorologist with 6.5 years as Royal Caribbean's chief meteorologist, routing the entire fleet around the entire globe, along with their sister cruise lines. And before that, I was a broadcast meteorologist for close to 25 years in the U.S. Clearly, when I was at Royal Caribbean, I immediately saw travel, weather, good information, accurate information. There's just a void out there. There's really no meteorologist spending a lot of time talking about this and no good avenue. And the areas I'm meaning are when you travel to a different country, your apps may not work. Americans, when you leave, what's the metric system showing up on your apps and what's the conversions? Or as you get into hotels in different cities, you may not know the local stations to watch for a weather forecast or a newscast. And often that's just going to be a generic forecast anyway and not specific to your travel needs. So that is why I created this channel, and I hope you subscribe, like, and the main thing, your questions and your comments, because while I'll do the overview in these videos, in the briefings, where I really want to be of service to you is you ask a question and let me dive into it. Even if it's one flight route or a specific cruise line itinerary, I want to dive into that for you if you have questions or concerns and give you a little more confidence in the forecast. That's where I really think this channel will shine, is getting into the smaller micro details of your specific forecast, literally making me your personal travel meteorologist. So let's dive into it. With our weekend edition of the Travel Weather Forecast, we're going to start with flights first. So if you're on a plane, headed to the airport, or about to fly this weekend, as of this recording Friday evening, most of the U.S. did really well today, but there are three areas that I do want to talk about, and they're all different reasons. It is weather-related in Vegas. We've seen a few days this week with high winds, and that has slowed operations very small amounts, but around 20 minutes. And both inbound and outbound flights, if you are delayed, that can be made up in the air. That's very reasonable to get that back, so to speak. So keeping you hopefully on time. The Austin ground delay that's close to 45 minutes, the comments there are that it is a staffing issue. So maybe not enough people to actually run the operations there, and that's causing the delay. And then there's Newark. It's always about the volume. And in fact, if it were weather related, this delay would be twice or even 3 times as long. It's close to an hour now, and it is all volume related. So having said that, I want to talk about some of the things I'm watching this weekend for those of you. First, I want to start with fog conditions. Those of you in the mid-Atlantic, including D.C., areas of Virginia, but even inland around Kentucky, southern Indiana, and Ohio, and then also on the west coast of the U.S., like I-5 and west to the beaches, but this would mean the Bay Area, Portland, Seattle, and the surrounding islands. Some patchy fog is expected and at times could be very thick. Saturday in these regions looks to be a little more widespread than Sunday. However, both days just before daybreak do have this painted in the forecast and the models of potentially seeing some heavy fog. After that, much of the U.S. is going to have amazing October fall football weather. So I'm pleased to say that most of the areas are going to do fantastic. The Gulf Coast, especially Florida, and in the Middle Rockies are the two areas. On Saturday, we'll have a system coming through Salt Lake City, and that is in the lower elevations, storms, thunderstorms, lightning. In the higher elevations, this will be snow, that we're talking about. And it could cause some weather-related delays in Salt Lake City, so I want to give you the heads up there for Saturday. By Saturday night and into early Sunday, this just clips Denver, but they're so well prepared for adverse weather at Denver International, and it's late enough in the day. I really don't anticipate huge problems, but if you're going through Denver International Airport, either coming or going, and it's in Saturday evening, just be aware that a possible small delay is on the table. And then going through Sunday, that system is going to head up into Canada. And as a result, I do think that it misses a lot of the areas of the Great Lakes and the Northeast. But it will hit the Dakotas with very heavy storms. Severe weather threat is possible as we go through this weekend, with the focus for the Dakotas being primarily on Sunday. And then down on the Gulf Coast, we're going to dive more into Florida in a moment when we talk ships. But airport around New Orleans, this could be also seeing some small delays. While most of the stormy weather will be just offshore, thankfully, we could have moments with very heavy torrential downpours in and around New Orleans Airport, and it might cause some delays for that. It's not going to be a whole weekend of delays and issues, but on and off, I would be prepared for that as a possibility. And then we are talking about Florida and this low. So if you're jumping on a ship, here's what I'm anticipating for this weekend. And it is looking to be a very slow moving, not well organized low pressure that will bring periods of torrential rainfall, focusing on the east coast of Florida. So all the ports from Jacksonville to Key West. Tampa and Orlando, you're also included in some of these heavy storms, but it is not looking to be as many rounds or as long lasting. So going to the parks in Orlando or going through the port of Tampa, know that we are going to be seeing some periods of heavy storms on and off, but the real focus, I believe, is going to be on the East Coast this weekend. And the primary time, Tampa, that you might be seeing it would be Sunday evening. Just to give you some perspective, again, you're seeing a lot fewer storms and better weather than the I-95 corridor for both Saturday and Sunday. It's a slow-moving low. So I will always say, when we are still in hurricane season and there's something around Florida, the models are not developing anything tropical, but I will be watching it this weekend just in case we get surprised or something develops that the models were not picking out. Did you know Florida has more October landfalling hurricanes than August? Yeah, it's true. It is very interesting that you always think of August and September as the peak months, and they are, but landfalls, October is second to September in Florida. So a little trivia for you as we go through the next couple of maps and features. I want to also talk about what I'm keeping an eye on for next weekend, just briefly touching on that. There is still set to be this low that will be, and I'll pull it up in just one moment, developing next week around the areas of the Lesser Antilles, east of Barbados, and then really starting to show up around Wednesday and Friday as we get into your heading into the weekend and up towards parts of the Caribbean that you may be going through. So while it's offshore Tuesday, Wednesday, early Thursday, by the time we get to late Thursday, that is approaching some of the middle Lesser Antilles. So, your Dominica, Antigua, Barbuda, Montserrat, those regions heading into Friday is when you can expect that. And that's both storminess as well as churning up the waters a little bit. I don't think it'll be so organized that it's not safe to have a ship in this area. But each day it will be getting stronger. So Saturday, we find this moving into the British and U.S. Virgin Islands and into Puerto Rico going into Sunday. After that, there's a lot of disagreement in the models, and I'll be back Monday with an update for you if something doesn't develop this weekend in Florida, which, again, not really expecting it, but on Monday, we'll start to touch on this and our confidence in what that will be. Several models take it and curve it at the same time. Several models are developing a different low coming out of Colombia and up through the Caribbean, potentially up towards the Gulf. We will touch on that next week because I have very little to no confidence on that. I want to see the trend over the weekend before we start to really lean into, could this be something? Speaking of the tropics, just showing you, again, a little bit of, there's good model agreement early next week. You can see how tightly packed the ensembles are for this system that we're looking at for late next week. But watch them just spread out and disperse once we hit Puerto Rico. That's why I don't want to spend too much time on this and raise your anxiety, because this could be completely nothing past parts of the Caribbean and never be an issue for us. But I will be watching this as well and updating you next week as to what the trends are showing and what they're looking like. So with that said, any questions, any concerns, drop them in the comment section. I'll be checking through tonight and through the weekend so I can answer it. And again, that's really the point of this channel, is to give you the overview and the briefings, but dive into your specific questions and answer that forecast for you as accurately as possible. And that's what I hope to do in the days ahead as we are launching this. So have a safe weekend. I'll see you Monday. In the meantime, have a wonderful time out there. If you are flying or on a ship, enjoy that vacation.